What's up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And right now I'd like to give you guys my review of the new HBO Max original film, Judas and the Black Messiah. And this is a movie that has been released simultaneously on HBO Max and in theaters. I was able to catch it over the weekend on HBO Max, and I want to give you guys my thoughts on it. Now, I want to be careful because I've already seen some social media talk on this topic, and I'm not going to give this a glowing review. I don't love it. And it's getting a lot of glowing reviews online, and it's honestly gotten some negative reviews online. For the most part, it's been very positive, though. I'm not quite as positive about it, and I've already seen people online on social media saying, well, if you don't like this, you're just racist. Well, that's not really true. All right, that's not really true. I can appreciate what the story says and support its message, which most of its message I do support, and I can still not love the film. Art is subjective. Any art is subjective. Paintings are subjective. Some people are going to look at a painting and they're going to be like, that's the most beautiful thing ever. And some other people are going to look at that same painting and be like, I don't know what you're looking at. Guys, movies are the same thing. Movies are art. And some people are going to watch a movie and they're going to be deeply moved by it. And other people are going to watch it and they're going to be like, I don't know what you're watching, because art affects us all differently. It's something that happens inside. It happens in our soul. It's something that happens to us. And I did not love Judas and the Black Messiah. And like I said, having read social media on it, there's going to be some people who are going to say, well, I know why you didn't like it. Have you looked in the mirror, white guy? And I'm sorry, that's just not true. I didn't like it because there were specific reasons I didn't like it, but let's talk about it. And I didn't hate it. Let's make that very clear. I didn't hate it. I just didn't care for it. I'm never going to watch it again. But I didn't hate it. I didn't hate myself watching it. I wasn't looking at my watch the whole time saying, when is this going to be over? I was engaged. I was into it. And then when it was over, I was like, didn't care for it. All right. So this movie is about Fred Hampton, played by Daniel Kaluuya. Is that how you say it? Kaluuya? And he is the founder of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. And this movie is about Bill O'Neill, who is basically like a petty criminal who was brought in by the FBI to be an informant in the Black Panther Party and ultimately betray Fred Hampton. True story. All of it's true. It led to Fred Hampton being assassinated at the hands of the police when he was just, I think 21 years old, right? 21 or 22, something around there. And it was an assassination. It was a hit. They were trying to silence him. And the Black Panthers, it's a topic that's not really covered a lot in film. Honestly, it's not really even covered a lot in film that deal with social rights, with civil rights. It's a difficult topic to discuss because they are a group that was for social justice, right? The Black Panther Party, I'm a history teacher, by the way. All right, I'm a history teacher. I know a little bit about this stuff. All right, the Black Panther Party, they did a lot of good. They had a lot of good programs that they supported. They did meals for school children, right? They were activists in their community. They fought hard for social justice, for equality. The Rainbow Coalition. The Rainbow Coalition was a multiracial group of people that the Black Panther Party helped to organize that fought for economic equality. Now, I'm not always a supporter of what the Black Panther Party's theory on economic equality is, and I'll get to that in a second. But they fought hard for economic equality. right? That everybody should have equal opportunity, which is something I do support. Everybody should have opportunities in this country. They fought against police brutality, and that was part of the Rainbow Coalition, right? This multiracial group of people that fought against police brutality. And make no mistake, Fred Hampton was a very charismatic person. If you've ever listened to any of his speeches, and I think that one of the speeches, if I remember correctly, was actually in the movie at the beginning of it, his speeches were rousing. This is actually something that I told my class when we were talking about the civil rights, was that the best civil rights leaders, the best ones, were able to convince, white people who lived in this racist society. And that's why I tell my class, pre-civil rights era, the United States was a racist society. It was accepted. Racism was accepted. It was fine. It wasn't fine, but from a social standpoint, it was fine. It wasn't a political death or a social death that it is today. And I asked one of my classes, I even said, who thinks we're a racist society today? And I had a couple students raise their hand, and I said, I respect that. I respect that. I respect that some people think we still live in a racist society. And then I said, I disagree. I think there's still racist people in our society. And I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our system to make sure that the laws are applied equally to all people, especially in our police system, to make sure that, in our justice system, to make sure that people of color are treated the same way as white people. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. But when you look at our society today, we have rejected racism, right? Go to any social media, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, whatever the case may be, go to social media and you will see a resounding, loud rejection of racism. I just saw one today. I was reading some I was actually reading some reviews online about Judas and the Black Messiah, and this guy in the comment section, he said, I love these. He says, when do white people get their own TV show? Like, when do white people get their own version of BET? And I'm just sitting here, I'm like, oh man, do I want to click it and read these? Do I want to click it and read the comments to this? And I did. And what I saw, what I saw when I clicked it and read the comments was a resounding rejection of racism. All right. But that was not the case in the 60s. In the 60s, it was socially okay. So the Black Panthers, they worked hard to bring about social change, to create that equality. They also had some stuff that I don't care for. There's some things about the Black Panthers that, as a history teacher, I don't shy away from talking about either. All right, they were militant. All right, they were militant. They were often armed to the teeth. They were socialist. Guys, I'm a capitalist. Rah, 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 capitalism. I'm a capitalist, so I have a hard time supporting socialist institutions. Black Panthers were a socialist institution. They had violent tendencies, especially to the people in their, maybe not especially, but even, they had violent tendencies even to people in their own group. Right? In fact, it was infighting that kept the Black Panthers from ever becoming more relevant than they were. It was infighting that mostly caused the party to dissolve eventually. They weren't able to get along with each other. So yeah, there's stuff about the Black Panther Party that I don't like. And it's difficult to talk about the Black Panther Party because of that. And that's why you don't see a lot of coverage, a lot of movies that, even civil rights movies, that don't really address the Black Panthers, because it's a difficult topic to address, because you want to talk about all the good stuff that they did, and you want to talk about the social equality that was fought for during the civil rights era. But with the Black Panthers, you also get their baggage. All right, the Black Panthers had some baggage. And whenever you talk about the good stuff that they did, inevitably, a lot of that bad stuff comes up also because of the baggage that they brought with them. So I gotta commend this movie for trying to tackle a very difficult subject. I believe this is the only movie that's been made about Fred Hampton and Bill O'Neill. I don't believe that they've been made in any other biographies because this is a tough topic to talk about. And right now, given the political climate of this country, it's a very divisive topic to talk about. You know, you've got a lot of people who want to, you know, who look at this story and they see heroes, and you have other people that look at this story and they see villains, and that's something that's really difficult to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's difficult to balance that out and understand that, you know, to understand that it's a complex situation. It's a complex story, and it's a very difficult one to tell. So I do acknowledge that when I review this movie. So let's talk about the movie. The acting was phenomenal. The acting was phenomenal. In fact, I expect Daniel Kaluuya. I think that's how you say it, Daniel Kaluuya. I expect him to get a Best Actor nomination for this. He was that good, but I think a lot of people. I think he was so good that a lot of people are looking over Lakeith Stanfield. He was phenomenal as Bill O'Neill, phenomenal, and in a lot of ways, I feel like he was the main star of the movie. In a lot of ways, I feel like Fred Hampton kind of took a back seat, his story to Bill O'Neill's story. But I really definitely feel like his acting is being overlooked because Daniel Kaluuya was so good. But Lakeith Stanfield was phenomenal in this. Another person who was really good in this that nobody's talking about is Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons played the FBI agent who kept on, who was working with Bill O'Neill, and kept on giving Bill O'Neill money and meals and extravagance in exchange for information. Jesse Plemons was great in this. Just very, very charismatic, and you definitely felt. Let's talk about the Judas. I got the Judas reference down here on the list a little bit, but let's go ahead and talk about that while we're talking about Jesse Plemons. The Judas reference here is apt. All right. Bill O'Neill is somebody that infiltrated, and he betrayed because of money and goodies. And to me, Jesse Plemons playing Roy Mitchell, he did a great job of kind of being that Pontius Pilate character, right? The one who's just, or maybe not Pontius Pilate, just being the Romans. He was the face of the Romans, and he was the one who was giving Judas his money to betray the Messiah. And that's kind of what happening here, is that Jesse Plemons is the one who's given Bill the money and the goodies to betray Fred. And he just played it with such a cool arrogance that you could tell that, like, he's cool, he's relaxed, there's arrogance, but there's also sinister behind it, right? He knows this is going to end in an assassination. He knows it. He knows it's going to end in what amounts to a political assassination. And there's this pleasantness, but it's the type of pleasantness where if you look beyond the surface, you can tell that there's something sinister there. There's something evil there. And Jesse Plemons did that wonderfully. The costumes, the set, everything felt very authentic. It looked very authentic, and it was all very cinematic in the way it was filmed. And again, this is all very good stuff about the movie. Very cinematic, and it definitely looked like they paid very close attention to making sure that the details were correct. And like I said, I watched this on HBO Max. I'd have liked to have seen it on the big screen because it was very cinematic in the way it was filmed. Speaking of that, the cinematography in this movie was also top notch. All right, so I got I've been saying a lot of good stuff about it, and there certainly is. Like I said, I didn't hate it, but for me, I didn't love it, because it was extremely meandering. That's the first reason I didn't love it. It was extremely meandering. It took a long time to get anywhere. It took a long time to get anywhere. It was exposition, 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 exposition. And then you get to a moment where you're like, all right, now we're going to get some payoff from all this exposition. And then oftentimes you would get more exposition on top of that. When we finally did get to the assassination towards the end of the movie, I was honestly a little bored by then. Now, I've said that, this is a tough topic to tackle. And it is a tough topic to tackle because, quite frankly, it's not this was never a movie that was going to have a lot of action in it. There's never going to be a lot of gunplay. Although there is a gunfight between some Black Panther Party members and the police about halfway through the film, which I'd have to check my sources, but I believe that gunfight actually happened, where one Black Panther member was killed and 2 police officers were killed. I believe that actually happened. I'd have to double check that. But like I said, it was very meandering to get there, to get to that end where the police shoot like 99 rounds and the Black Panthers shoot like less than 10 rounds. Maybe it was only 1 or 2 rounds, and and it was a straight up assassination. And we know that's going to come, but at the same time, that's kind of the payoff of the movie. So when you kind of know how the movie's going to end, and it's very meandering to get there, when that payoff finally comes, it's not quite as when it happens. You felt it when it happened. You felt the evilness that was taking place. You felt the sadness that was taking place. In fact, when his girlfriend was brought out by the police and they put a couple more shots into him, you could even feel almost the strength that she was exuding. But the impact was still lessened because I was bored when it started. I would have liked to have seen more. I would like to have seen the story be tightened up a little bit. It took a long time to get there. And I also feel like they spent way too much time on the Bill O'Neill character, when I definitely feel like Fred Hampton is the more interesting character. And I feel like he definitely took a back seat in a lot of ways in this film to the Bill O'Reilly character. I would like to have seen more insight into Fred. I'd like to have seen more about the programs, the Rainbow Coalition, the activism that he did, the meals for school children that he did. I'd like to have seen more focus on that, because I feel like that would have rounded him out as a character more. They focused a lot on his charisma, his ability to influence not just Black people but white people. They spent a lot on his personal life with his girlfriend and the fact that he was able to bring together organizations in support of the Black Panthers. But we didn't get a lot of taste of the good stuff that he did, because for a lot of the movie he was sidelined in favor of Bill O'Reilly. I feel like this movie would have been a lot more interesting had the focus been on the Fred Hampton character. Now you can make the argument that it's called Judas and the Black Messiah, and the focus was on the Judas character. But for me, the Fred Hampton character is a lot more interesting than a character that's kind of being driven by money and kind of being driven by selfish reasons. And I definitely think the Bill O'Reilly character was mostly a selfish character, whereas Fred Hampton, he was a lot more interesting. I don't have to agree with his politics, because he was he was a socialist. I don't have to agree with his politics to be like, this was an interesting character, an interesting person, somebody who advocated for social change, which was definitely needed during that era, somebody who was able to bring people together, somebody who was able to help feed kids, somebody who was able to make a difference, a positive difference in the world. And I just didn't feel like we got a whole lot of that in this movie. I mean, it was all touched upon. But for me, I think the movie would have been a lot better had he been the main person in the movie and not Bill O'Reilly. So those are kind of the reasons that I didn't care for the movie all that much. It was very meandering, very slow, and by the time you got to the climax of the movie, you were kind of bored. And part of that reason is because I feel like they just focused on the wrong person. You know, they focused on they focused on Bill when they should have probably been focusing on Fred. This is not a Fred Hampton biopic. It's also not a Bill O'Reilly biopic. This is a story of an assassination. And had it been a Fred Hampton biopic, I feel like it would have been a lot more interesting. Because I feel like he's an interesting person. So, yeah, I give this movie a solid C. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was good for a single watch. And that's kind of where it's going to stand. Maybe I'll revisit it in a number of years. But I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I feel like there's some missed opportunities there to really have a great movie that really shone a lot of light into who the Black Panthers were. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity. So that is my take on this movie. What did you think of Judas and the Black Messiah? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your take on it. While you're there, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of content, and I want to make sure that you're up to date with everything that I'm doing. And as always, thank you so much for joining me right here at the OQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you later.